Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the 2014 unibody Retina MacBook Pro and see how this particular MacBook still holds up in 2024. Now, there's a few things to keep in mind with these particular MacBooks. The first one being, on the average basis of the average MacBook, I probably wouldn't recommend any single person to go through and purchase this particular MacBook anymore. And the main reason for this is because this device is unsupported with software, and it really hasn't been supported with software in many, many years. So because of that, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to go ahead and purchase one of these types of devices. You are much better off purchasing a device that is still supported with software, that's still going to have a future ahead of it, or even one that maybe is unsupported with software within the last year. Getting a device that's been unsupported with software for years and years is a very big turnoff for me, and it's just not something I would recommend the average person to go ahead and basically buy. So with that being said, luckily for you, there are tons and tons of other MacBooks that you are able to buy in the used market, brand new market on Amazon. So I'll leave a link in the description. If you want to pick up some MacBooks from there, you can do that, and you can help support the channel at the same exact time. Now, starting off with the outside of this particular MacBook, these MacBooks came out in two different sizes. So you had a 13-inch model, and then you had a 15-inch model as well. And the coolest thing about these particular MacBooks was that there was a good amount of capability behind all of them, which is something that was very cool. You were able to go through and pick up either a 13-inch MacBook or a 15-inch MacBook, and depending on the size of the display, it would give you some extra capability, some extra processing power. But if you wanted to still get the smaller one, you had the type of capability too, which I thought was still a very nice touch within these types of MacBooks. Now at the very top, you're just getting that standard Apple logo, which I think looks and feels very good still. Again, from that perspective, I don't really have that much to complain about here either, because these particular MacBooks still hold up with the way they feel. Apple's never really made a super cheap feeling MacBook, especially with these unibody MacBooks. They do not feel cheap or bad at all. And that is something that's very important to kind of keep in mind. So if you're planning on buying one of these MacBooks, a good thing is that it still feels like a very expensive MacBook, which is something that's very, very cool going on for these particular devices. Now, on top of that, with these particular MacBooks, you are still getting, the ports on the side as well, which is another very, very crazy thing going on for these ones. Now, on the 13-inch model, which is the one that I used to use, I used to use these particular MacBooks on an everyday basis, and I had a really good time with it, back in 2017, 2016, and 2018. So on the left side of this particular MacBook, you were getting that MagSafe 2 port. So that was the standard charging port. You could use two Thunderbolt 2 ports. So you could go ahead and plug this thing in and have those two Thunderbolt 2 ports waiting for you right there. And then you had a USB 3 port. So this was very nice because with those Thunderbolt 2 ports, you were able to go ahead and use it as you normally would, and you can kind of do whatever you want to with those particular ports. But having that, USB 3 port was a very, very nice thing. And this in and of itself was something that was very cool, which was something I really appreciated. So this in and of itself was something that was very awesome going on for these particular devices. The fact that you were getting a USB 3 port and a headphone jack, and then you were getting dual mics on that left side as well. On the right side, this is the craziest thing. You were getting an SD card, a full-size SD card inside of this particular MacBook. This was a crazy thing, which personally for me, when you were getting this type of device, you would never thought that you were getting an SD card, inside of these devices, which was great. But then Apple removed it later on, which was very annoying. But still having this type of capability is super cool, and I love that so much. You're getting an HDMI port inside of this particular device as well. And then you're getting a USB 3 port inside of this device too. So there were some really cool things going on for this particular device, which was something that was very awesome. And if I was going through and getting any sort of device out there, it's super cool that this thing had a USB 3 port on both sides. You're getting the SD card, HDMI, and a MagSafe port as well. Still to this day, there is so much capability behind this MacBook in and of itself, and it's very, very cool that we were getting this type of capability on these types of Macs, because ever since then, Apple removed it on a lot of them. They did bring it back on the M1 Pro MacBooks, but that was still something very, very cool that I really appreciated at that moment. So from that particular standpoint, still gets a thumbs up from me, and I still think it's a very cool thing going on for this particular device when it comes down to it. Now, flipping this thing open, there's some other really cool things going on for this particular device when it comes down to it as well. The other big thing you have to remember is that Apple, for a long time, they basically, went through and they removed these particular, the standard full-size keyboards that this thing had, and they brought it, the butterfly keyboard at that time, which is crazy. I have no idea why Apple ended up doing that. But guess what? Apple did end up going through, and they essentially came through and they gave us a full-size keyboard inside of these MacBooks. Now, I will tell you, these full-size keyboards still hold up very, very good from that particular standpoint, which is something that's super cool. I love being able to use these types of MacBooks with these types of devices because they still hold up so well in a lot of different ways. with this particular device, with its keyboard and with its full-size, trackpad as well, it's some really cool stuff that you can basically go through, that you can use these types of MacBook keyboards inside of these devices, because it still is such a cool thing. The trackpad itself, this was one of the last trackpads that didn't have that vibration motor inside of it. This one basically had that standard actual clicking mechanism inside of it, which was kind of interesting, but still a very, very cool thing going on for these particular devices when it came down to it as well. Now, on top of that, another very, very cool thing going on for this particular device is still its display. This display on this MacBook still holds up very, very well in so many different ways. The thing with these particular devices is that this device, for the most part, the display itself still has a little bit of bezel around it, so nothing super crazy, nothing we haven't already seen before. But something I really do appreciate a lot about these particular MacBook devices is that the displays still hold up so well even many, many years later, which is beautiful. Now, another thing you have to keep in mind is because this is an older MacBook, some of the things have aged a little bit. So for one, there's no USB Type-C ports on this MacBook. The display is not ProMotion. The front camera on this thing isn't even that great anymore. But that's not anything that kind of will, make me look at this MacBook in a bad way. Like I said, it's an older MacBook that I wouldn't recommend buying, but this is not a bad MacBook. This was a great MacBook when it first came out, and because it was one of the last MacBooks that didn't have the butterfly keyboard issues and all these other problems within itself, it's still one of those MacBooks I look at that I'm very, very happy about, that for many years after this, I was still using, and I was still kind of recommending people to buy, for the most part. I think the performance of this MacBook is another thing that might be a little bit outdated as well. The thing you have to remember is that with these particular Macs, when you look at them, they're not really going to be giving you that great of an experience when it comes down to the whole entire performance side, because they're fairly outdated. You can spec this thing out up to like 16 gigabytes of RAM, depending on the model you get, and I guess you can get up to 3 gigahertz on a dual-core Intel Core i7. That's up to that, so it doesn't start at that. But you can get up to that. You can also get a terabyte of flash storage on there. I've seen some, ways that you can actually go through and actually modify this thing. I was able to modify my 2015 MacBook and put an SSD in it. I think it was an SSD, or I was able to put, more RAM in it, something like that, I don't even remember. But you're still having some capability of changing some things out within here. It's not as much as the 2012, unibody MacBook Pro, but there's still a lot of capability behind this MacBook for the most part, which is still nice, but it just wouldn't necessarily be one of those MacBooks that I would recommend the average person of going through and actually buying when it comes down to it. So in my personal opinion, I will tell you, these particular MacBooks probably aren't worth buying anymore. And I really don't think these particular devices are pretty much in any way probably worth buying, mostly because they're just not necessarily the ones I would recommend buying. They're just a little bit outdated. You're not really getting that great of a performance inside of these either. The display is kind of a little bit outdated in today's standards, but the biggest thing is that software is no longer being supported. There's not really a big point of buying something that's already outdated with software like this at this level, when you can buy a MacBook that's not that much more expensive, that basically is, maybe just slightly more, maybe it's not even that much more expensive, but it's going to be giving you a longer supported software. I look at like a 20 M1 MacBook Pro. Those are the bare minimum in a lot of ways I'd probably recommend buying. But even if you don't want to go that one, you can also go other ways. You can buy something like a, 2019 MacBook Pro if you want to get the keyboard fixed and whatnot. But for the most part, stick with some of these newer ones like a 2020 or, beyond model MacBook. And those are going to be giving you the best experience as far as I can tell. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.